Welcome to UV Problems and Solutions. In this video you will learn what pinning is and how it can ruin your day if you don't realise it's going on. We'll see how to reset a UV map if things do go wrong, and then you can continue from there. Keeping the UV editor and the 3D editor in sync so you can see which part of the model you actually have selected. We'll be looking at the other types of unwrapping. And finally, one that can cause you a real headache is whether or not you've applied the location, the scale and the rotation of your model. So now we know what we're doing, let's go and hop straight on over into Blender. Okay, so we are back over in Blender and I've noticed a small problem straight away. It looks like at some point I forgot to save a file, and it is quite annoying, as you can probably imagine, that the base I've just coloured in is no longer coloured in. Bit annoying. Anyway, so what's the solution to this? Well, I can go ahead and recolour it, and of course there is a couple of quick ways of doing that. So this has the base colour that I want on it, so I can go into it, and when I bring up the texture paint mode, I can click on one of the two colour nodes just down at the bottom here. And when I do that, I get the colour wheel coming up. And be careful you don't go beyond the colour wheel, otherwise it just disappears off the screen. And there is a colour picker, very useful. Now the shortcut key for that is S whilst you're in a texture paint mode. And that also works over on the UV editor as well. So if we open up the tool shelf on here, click on one of these two colours, which are like the foreground and background colours almost, or at least having two colours, we can have the colour picker. And of course I can go ahead and click on this lovely sort of green yellowy colour that I've got on the screen. And I can also use the S key, and whilst that's held down I can pick a certain colour and away I go. Now when I pick a certain colour like that, you can see this extra square has appeared. Now that's very useful because when we switch over to this other object, the space object down here, and have a look at what's going on there, go into texture paint mode, we can see that it's all a bit grey, and initially we don't have, oh, I have got the right colour here, so that means I can scribble over here. Oh, let's turn up the strength, and we'll have the same base colour again. And of course I can go back in and create the brown muck that I put along the bottom. However, this isn't about recolouring things in, so let's go ahead and have a look at pinning. So before I do anything else, of course, I am going to save my image. There we go, that's saved. I'm not going to lose it this time. Right, so pinning can ruin your day if you don't know it's happening. Now, I have this section at the top here, this pillar section, and I want some grooves in it. Now, when I'm working on this particular model, and I don't know why it happens at the moment, because usually you put pins in yourself. However, pinning is happening. So if I add a couple of loop cuts in here, nothing happens immediately. However, if I go and unwrap this model again, you end up, if we cast our eye now across at the UV image editor, we end up with the UV meshes on top of one another, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on because I hadn't added pins. And what pins do is they, on the UV map themselves, keep certain vertices in position, which is very useful when you're playing about and trying to reorganize your UV map, but an absolute pain when not. Now you can see here the pinned vertices are marked in red. And if we go to the UV menu, we can see that pin is associated with P and unpin with Alt and P. Now since the whole lot are selected, I can go Alt and P, and it will remove the rest of those pins. Now if we go back and unwrap, it starts to make sense again. And if we go ahead and let's just say inset one of these faces to make a bit more detail, you can see it's still adding pins. Now I don't know why it's doing this. If anybody does, please let me know. Because when I open a brand new blend file, it doesn't actually work. So I've managed to apply something and don't know how I applied it. If you do, a micro challenge, then do let me know because it was driving me absolutely mad. Right, now I know it's happening, it's great because I can add more detail without the UV map folding in on itself, which is never a great thing. Now, the other thing that you can do here is actually clear the UV map. So if we go to on the actual 3D image editor itself and go to unwrap, we can go reset, and that basically puts all of the faces on top of one another again. So this is great if you want everything one color very quickly, but not that great for most work. And then when we go to unwrap again, you can see those pinned vertices cause a big problem. It's gone all over the place. So if your UV map itself is starting to act very odd, well, there's a possibility that you've inadvertently pinned some vertices, or Blender's done it for you, which is very annoying. Now, if we have a look at the UV image editor header, there's a button just next to the vertices, edge, face and island select that basically keeps everything in sync. So that's great when you're selecting individual faces, for instance. In fact, I'm just going to clear the pins on here and re-unwrap that, because that's completely unusable. So it means when I've selected a face, the rest of the UV mesh actually shows. If I just do this, then it looks a bit isolated. When it's off, I can't really see what's going on unless I select everything. So that's a very powerful tool. However, when it is selected, you've got to be careful, because you can accidentally start creating islands. Very powerful feature when you want to do it. However, now I've separated this from the rest of the model. If I go ahead and unwrap it again, it does, however, put it back. But if you were in the middle of adjusting your unwrap, that could be a real pain. So we have done manual unwrapping up to now, but there are some automatic options. For instance, we can hover over here and go use unwrap, and we can see that we've got smart UV project, follow active quads, key projection, etc, etc. Sometimes these can give you a great head start. So let's try cube projection and see what happens there. Well, that is going to be a bit of a pain to sort out. So let's try a different one. Let's try cylinder projection. Now it's a bit better, but again, it's a bit awkward here. And of course, these are ignoring the seams that we've made. That's why just making the seams yourself and then unwrapping is so powerful, because that is really logically laid out. Smart UV Project can be very helpful as well, although it does seem to make a series of islands. So if we go into island select mode, so I'm just turning off the syncing selection and go to island select, we can see here it's made 5 islands. Now, projecting from view is great as a quick solution, and in some cases it may be all you need to do. Of course, this UV map here you can see doesn't really fill the image, which is a bit of a waste. So the next option down is project from view to the bound, so it fills it up. But it does stretch the UV map ever so slightly, and as you can see, this looks like a very squat cylinder, whereas in fact it's not that squat. You can also unwrap from the UV image editor itself with the E key, very powerful. And remember that it also remembers your previous margin settings that you have as well. So if you've been playing and whacked it up really high, it's going to have lots of distance between these islands here. The final thing that we're going to discuss now that can cause you a problem when doing any UV mapping and textures, etc., is whether or not your scale, rotation or location has been applied. Now this is a mesh operation, so we'll go over to the 3D window here, and it's in object mode that it applies. Now under the object menu itself, we have the apply option here. You can see that is Control and A for the shortcut. And here we have the location, the rotation, the scale, etc. Now what this basically means is if you have, let's say, a 1x1 cube, and in object mode you scale it up to be 3x3, it is in fact still a 1x1 cube that has a scaling factor of 3 on it. Now if you in edit mode scale it up to a 3x3 cube, it is in fact a 3x3 cube. So what this does is it applies that, in this case, scale to the actual object itself. So it is now genuinely a 3x3 cube in this instance, rather than just a 1x1 scaled 3 times. Right, so we'll just apply the rotation and scale and Control and A. Here we go, apply there. And location, well, I'm not going to do location in this case. There we go. You did have to hop backwards and forwards after applying that to get rid of the pink, that bright magenta, meaning that I've got no texture applied. Well, going backwards and forwards has solved that. So now I've got a challenge for you guys. I'd like you to add some more detail to your pillars. So add some additional detail to your pillars. If they are like mine, they're currently simple, so add medium detail. If you have reasonable detail already, then go ahead and add some further detail. Pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's hop straight on over into Blender. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more detail to, I'm in the wrong object here, to this one here. So I'm going to not need my UV editor window at the moment, so I'm just going to bring that out. Now I'm going to go ahead and just move in every other one of these, and if I've got any undos left, I'm hoping I'll be able to undo that face inset. No, I can't, so I'm going to have to do a bit of what's called retopology, where I'm going to go ahead and delete those faces by deleting the vertices of the middle face, and that will remove the outer ones as well. And hopefully I'll be able to fill that back in with a face and it not cause us too much pain. Excellent. So now I've got that on there, I'm going to select every other face, I think. And I should be able to inset them all at once. Go down here and pivot point, make sure it sets individual origins. There we go, we can inset all at once. 0.2, oh no, that's far too far. 0.02, 3, 5, 6, 5, there we go. So 0.05 is how far I need to move them in. And then I'm going to move this. Now I want to lock it in the normal Z direction. Now, pressing Z twice is not currently helping, so I'm going to escape out of that, and down here change the transform orientation to normal. Now this should mean that when I try to move it, the first Z will move it up and down. Excellent. But the next Z, because I've got individual origins, there we go, they go out to their own face normals. And I'm going to indent them ever so slightly. That's probably a bit too much, I don't know. Let's hop into object mode and see how it's looking. Okay, I don't like this curvedness to it, so I'm going to have to probably go round, selecting a couple of face loops inside here, and hopefully I'll get the right location in every single one. There we go, so all of those face loops have been selected, and I should be able to now go up and increase the mean crease. I'm going to try 0.5. That looks much better. Yeah, I don't know what I was on there, 0.5, yeah. I'm going to try 0.7, see how that looks. No, that's a bit too sharp. 0.4, a bit too smooth. So yeah, I think 0.5, 0.6, something like that. And I can tweak these values all day, of course. I've got a bit more detail in there now. Brilliant. And of course, I can go, well, dust and stuff will start to collect in these sort of crevices in here, so I can go in and colour those bits in a bit more. But of course, as always, I'm running a bit out of time here. So how did you guys get on? Did you add a lot of detail to your pillar? Please share them in the discussions, and I will see you in the next lecture.